I'm here with Doug Gordon and Dil Singer.
Hello, I'm Doug.
Kick this shit off.
They're from the Open Mic Life podcast. So can you guys give me a rundown of your podcast, please?
Yeah, it's a podcast about learning how to do stand-up comedy. So it's like two open mic comedians interviewing other comedians from like open micers right up to headliners and everyone sort of in between. So they just come on the show and talk about their experiences with it.
I found it, like, I've only been part of the podcast over the last 5 episodes, I think.
Yeah, 5.
Because Doug used to do it with Russell Wigton, another comic.
Yeah, tell me about the transition. Why did Russell leave?
Russell married and his wife had a baby, and he started writing for a TV show that you're involved with, Live on Bowen. And he also is doing gigs as well. He's a stand-up comic like me and Dil. And so, yeah, it just came down to a time where he didn't have time to do the podcast anymore.
The idea behind you wanted to get a bit of a profile, also give you access to a chance to, a reason to chat to a headliner.
But if we're honest and saying we're starting out, we want to ask you about when you're starting out. We can relate to that. We can bond over that. It's real. Yeah. It gives a really good sort of experience there.
It is really cool to sort of hear headliners have similar stories to what we are going through right now. So it's kind of like a really nice idea to know that, everyone goes through this pool period.
So what do you think, because being so many different podcasts, like nearly every comedian wants to start one, what do you think separates your podcast or a podcast from another one?
Ours don't have listeners. That's probably the start.
Don't rag out the podcast. Represent your gang. I've got Open Mic Life tattooed in a semicircle on my gut in Old English writing. It's the hook. It's the hook. Look at, we mentioned the Little Dum Dum Club before. That's a really good one. There's another podcast, Steele Saunders, I Love Green Guide Letters. Yeah. The specific hook angle of reviewing the Green Guide letters, like no one's done that before. That's an original concept.
That's right.
And it's something that people can relate to, because I'm sure there's many people out there who have read the Green Guide and the Age and stuff, and that has created a hook thing. I
guess the part of the excitement is that idea that we're all kind of new at this, and we're all... I think there's something endearing about the fuck-ups we make, and can I swear on this?
Yeah.
Or something. I think
beeps are being hilarious.
I think that is a bit endearing as well. That kind of has that unpolishedness to us. Let's be fair, like
shambolicness.
Yeah,
it doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yes.
But it is still delivered in a medium where you can listen to it. I always want to make sure that it's like the sound quality of the actual
the
production
that's true.
values.
The production value is definitely top notch.
Like the sound effects, I always just had this idea of just doing these stupid things, but the beauty of that is, as you said, no one else does it, and you can just add them as it comes along, and it adds a different sort of bell and whistle to the podcast. It breaks it up, and
What do you guys think makes a good podcast great?
All this shit we just said in the past 10 minutes. You're talking to somebody who's been kicked out of Raw, or not kicked out, not passing Raw the first 3 times.
I think it's my favorite podcasts are the ones where people who do it because they love it and because it's the things they want to talk about. And I reckon the advantage that podcast as a medium has over most other kind of entertainment stuff out there is that it is unpoliced.
What do you think podcasts have done for comedy? Because it's kind of rustled the feathers a little bit.
Rustled the feathers?
Yeah.
Ruffled. It's Wigton the feathers a bit.
You can say rustle.
You can say rustled.
Rustling leaves, isn't it?
Isn't it the same? Yeah.
I think that's right.
Fuck off, Doug. What do you think? How do you think podcasts have changed comedy? What has it done?
I think they've rustled a few feathers. That's probably for sure. Well, look, what I think is it's done some amazing things for some people. Like, for example, I think Steele Saunders, his profile has improved a fair bit since then.
Yeah, agree with what Dil says, but it also gives either people like involved in the industry or fans of comedy another outlet to experience it when they're not at a show, when there's nothing on television. I love this about podcasts, getting on the train, going places where you can just shut out and just get in there and listen to this. It's with you. You're living it. I wanted to do a video project a while ago, but it's a lot of work doing video. The lady who was in here before, who edits a lot of these videos, my heart goes out to her because, it is just can be quite daunting. It's also theatre of the mind, like all the sound effects, all the stupid gags, all the little things we can do, I think can be executed a lot better on an audio medium. 3 times.
So what's your vision for the podcast? Like, where do you hope to go with it?
I guess it would be coming back to the original thing, which is that it's giving me the chance to ask the questions that I wanted to ask. So it gives me an excuse to maybe approach headliners and people that I might not be in cahoots with necessarily, to get them to come down, sit down and like drill them and really try and extract as much information as I can. It would be good to get to the stage where come around festival times that we can do live shows that are well attended and things like that. Get a bit of following from that.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I suppose that would be my next sort of goal or sort of vision for the podcast, because we are doing live podcasts during the 2014 MICF, Melbourne International Comedy Festival. I'm thinking we're going to have bigger names than we had last time, but everything's a progression, because the next live ones, hopefully we've made more connections, the podcast has gotten out there, etc., so we can have even more people. Like, my dream is to one day have my like Bill Burr or Jimmy Carr or someone on like that.
I'd like to think that we're sort of a bit of a work in progress at this point. That is...
It's development. We're developing.
Yeah. Maybe that's a cop-out by me. Maybe it is. I think it is. Well, that I feel like it's okay that not many people are knowing us about it yet, because we're going to be better in the future.
What equipment do you guys use? That's important.
What equipment do we use? Okay, so I use a Behringer mixer. I can't remember the model number, but
how much was it?
$130. We have 3 microphones, each for each person, using a XLR connection instead of a line in, because it's better quality. And my sound guy, Julio really Ramirez. Yeah, Julio is a sound engineer, so he's doing that. He's starting to do that, and a lot of people sort of just wing sound and figure it out. But me and Julio have been making hip hop beats together since like we were 14. Since like we were 2000, me and Julio.
So casually, just hip hop beats.
So he's come in and set the levels correctly. So if there's other podcasters out there, that is so important, getting the levels correct so it doesn't distort and keeps your hiss down. If you want to check out Open Mic Life, if you haven't listened to it, iTunes, the website is like 50% done. I'm gonna have to commission someone to finish it, I think. But yeah, find it on iTunes, subscribe, review it. It's also available on facebook.com/Open Mic Life, on Twitter at Open Mic Life Pod. So yeah, check that out. And by the way, I love YAWP. Well, YAWP has had Open Mic Life's back since day one. 3 times.